let us now switch gears as to what recently happened here in America with the Baltimore Bridge collapse. I am looking at this event like a big false prophet ritual. Let me break some stuff down here because there's a lot of numbers on the screen and it might be a little discouraging. But when I heard of this news, all I heard is Francis collapsed. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, Francis down. And then I come to find out that the bridge is 47 years old. Well, that's pretty telling because with the practice of gematria, Vatican equals 47. And also, the word, I knew about this for a long time, but the word pontiff means bridge builder. So I saw, wait a minute, they're doing a ritual with bridges after being 47 years old, and it has the name Francis? Either way, I want you to see now that they're preparing most likely for the death of Pope Francis, the first Jesuit pope that might pass the baton to Pizzaballa, which comes from the Franciscan order. So it's the Jesuits and the Franciscans here. But notice, as I've recently mentioned, from Britannica Encyclopedia, they tell us about the Alumbrados, which is the Illuminati in Spanish. And it says here, the Alumbrados came primarily from among the Reformed Franciscans, which Pizzaballa is from, and the Jesuits, which Pope Francis is from. And here's a picture of them recently at the Vatican. But when this bridge that bears the name Francis, which is 47 years old, when this happened, well, let's take a look at some of this date numerology here as they do it by the numbers with the devil's mystery of iniquity in what looks to me as a big false prophet ritual. And notice, it's in Holy Week and in the land of Maryland. Mary's land. Like the Virgin Mary? Check it out. All right, if we look at March 26th, when the bridge collapsed, to the next birthday of Pizzaballa, which might be the next pope and the final pope and the false prophet, well, that is exactly 360 days. Well, Lucifer equals 360 with the reverse satanic cipher. Now, notice, when we look at Pope Francis's birthday, his upcoming birthday, from the date that the bridge called Francis collapsed, that is 266 days, which is another big number, which also chiefly looks at, look at this, Lucifer, son of the morning, equals 266. So this is a big Lucifer false prophet ritual from what I'm looking at, because they're also setting up for Pizzaballa becoming papable. This man is the first cardinal for being the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem. And as we also highlighted recently, he was made the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem by the Jesuit Pope 666 months after his birth. So we are watching for most likely, you know, George, he's getting old. He's getting old, but it might be the Alumbrados closing out the show. The Franciscans and the Jesuits teaming up here. And also don't forget, Francis is coming from the name Francis of Assisi, the founder of the Franciscan order. So it's the Franciscan order and the Jesuit order closing out the show from what it looks like. And with that being said, speaking of the bridge collapse, listen, I want to tell you right now, this is where we're at. You know, Act 1 of Leave the World Behind, executive produced by that sellout Barack Obama and Beast Decoy, has already been accomplished. Because this is the scene that we have lived out with the Baltimore Bridge collapse. Check it out.
Wake up. Archie, come on, bud. Man, help us back up.
Leave it already?
Why? Holy fuck.
Jesus, Archie, let's go.
That is the scene. That is the first initial big encounter from Leave the World Behind that came out last year. And notice, there is a big ship that just gets beached on the beach there. I mean, it just goes in the beach. But one of the reasons that they tell you at the end of the film is that there was GPS signals that went out because they most likely a cyber attack or a hack that did not allow these ships navigational tools to operate correctly. And that's what we look at with this Baltimore bridge collapse. It looks like the ship, flashed the lights once in a while and couldn't really get back on course and hit the bridge. Now, with that being said, here's a little bit just scratching the surface. We are just going to scratch the surface on this big ritual, which happened with a bridge that they call Key Bridge. Now, look at this. The Key Bridge equals 86. And this happened on the 86th day of the year in leap years. So you can see they're doing it by the numbers with the devil's mystery of iniquity. But what I added here is you can discern the face of the sky, but can ye not discern the signs of the times, man? They have literally made a movie that is most likely showing us how it's all going to go about with our collapse here in America as we go into the end of the world. But I do have a clip here. Let me go back. I do have a clip of the actual bridge hitting the fourth pillar there. And you can see the whole bridge went down there. And all like I said, when I first got wind of this particular story, all that hit me, knowing that the king of the world right now is King Francis, Pope Francis. Remember, Pope Francis is the sovereign of the city that my father tells me reigns over the other kings. So the king of kings right now is the king of the Vatican, which is King Francis, Pope Francis, that reigns over the other kings of the world. So Pope Francis, he's very important with a lot of these rituals. And you can see, all that came to mind with me is Francis, bridge for Pontiff, and collapses. So I'm thinking, oh man, is Pope Francis about to die? Either way, that's my first impression. But what I have done here is I've put that scene with the white lion, because don't forget the beast of Revelation 13, which is Mohammed bin Salman. He comes from the sea, and he's also described having a mouth as a lion. He has a mouth as a lion. That's his physical description. And notice Mohammed bin Salman's voice is very growly. And I have positioned the Leave the World Behind scene along with the scene from Baltimore. I mean, it's these people. Listen, I have to give a big thank you to Obama. They are literally showing us how they're most likely going to go about this thing, man. So, remember, Act 1 has been completed. Now, one of the other things that I wanted to mention before we proceed also is I got to see the mayor of Baltimore, which he's like my age. I was like, man, he's kind of young. But then I looked into him on Wikipedia, and what stood out to me with the mayor's age is he was born on April 8th, which is for the upcoming solar eclipse, man. I said, oh, come on now. Come on now. Come on now. Now, let us also proceed to this other gram of truth that I just made. I have made an image. I have made a collage going from left to right in chronological order about what happens in the movie Leave the World Behind. Remember, executive produced by that sellout and beast decoy, Barack Hussein Obama. And notice, in this film, I'm asking myself, I wonder if they're going to go in order. I literally wonder, are we going to see this in order? But notice, step 1. With the white lion, that's most likely the Baltimore Bridge. Well, what do we have coming up? We got a national alert. Then we got a cyber attack across America. Then we got planes falling out of the sky. Then we got people that are getting attacked by these noises, which is most likely going to come to us by the 5G. Then we got death to America from Iran, the boogeyman. Then we got crazy Teslas coming at us that are trying to kill us on autopilot. And then notice they show an eclipse. But typically, what we see in the film is a lunar eclipse, because we are looking at Earth from the moon with the American flag all messed up, and we're looking at Earth that is eclipsing the sun. So this is really a lunar eclipse, if you want to consider it that. But don't forget, we do have the total solar eclipse coming up 12 days from today. And notice, right after the eclipse, like I've also been mentioning with May 6th coming up, We get New York nuked, man, with a big old blast. But I now wanted to show you that particular scene from Leave the World Behind as to what they show us with an eclipse of, from the perspective of the moon, which should be a lunar eclipse. But it also shows America and the flag of America, all just, the American flag all decrepit because, listen, if you can't tell already, America's done, man. We are witnessing the collapse of America. Either way, they're showing us, they're literally showing us all this, man. Check it out. And by the way, that is the particular scene in the film from beginning to end that shows you an eclipse. And it was exactly 33 seconds long. And eclipse with the practice of gematria also equals 33. Listen, man, for the mystery of iniquity does already work. But here, as a faithful ambassador, we have been reminding you so that they don't catch us slipping here about some dates to watch for. Because look at all this dovetailing off of each other, man. This is all ripe for something. All right. Again, chiefly, we know the beast is MBS. When he does the deal with Israel, the end of the world really begins. But what do we have coming up? We're currently in Ramadan. That leads into the eclipse with a big fat X over America. That then goes into Passover. And the third day of Passover is day 201 with the war in Israel with Gaza. But then it also is going to be leading into May 1st, which is 666 days after the Georgia Guidestones were blown up on 322. That is also the Illuminati birthday and the pagan witch belting. So May 1st, man, May Day, May Day. And we also have, like I've also been mentioning, 5/6, which is May 6th coming up, also Holocaust Remembrance Day, and 666 days after the New York nuclear public servants announcement was declared. All right, so listen, all right, don't let them catch you slipping. We're watching. We know who the beast is. These are just some dates. And mind you, look at all this stuff, man. Come on, man. You know some stuff's about to pop off. You can feel it. Otherwise, we know MBS plus Israel deal equals.
It's the final countdown.
And I'm also bold enough to tell you that my Father, when he does something twice, it's established by him, and he will bring it to pass shortly. And here's a quick little gram of truth that shows you the number of his name is 666 twice, with Prince and without Prince. And that lets me know it's established that MBS is the beast. And also, in the earthly, Saudi Arabia should have a crown prince deputy, but they don't, because he is it. And he's been telling us himself, every day we're getting closer to him confirming the covenant like Daniel 9:27 says, and most likely parting God's land like Joel 3:2 says, and allowing the Jews to build the third temple like Revelation 11 shows us, for the beast to declare he's God in the temple of God. And that all happens after Mohammed bin Salman is killed by the middle and Judas enters his body, as we've already mentioned. And as you can see here, this is what we have coming up. I highly recommend you download this and print this up to help you rightly divide what we are about to live. After the cross, this is the dispensation of the grace of God that we are still in. The beast MBS is soon going to confirm the covenant. Then Moses and Elijah are going to witness to Israel for 42 months. Then MBS is killed and risen with Judas in him. And then Judas in the body of MBS is going to rule the world in the great tribulation with the wrath of God. And then at the last trump, the Lord returns in flaming fire. That's also the time that the first resurrection occurs for the believer. And notice the word rapture is not in the Bible. The word resurrection is, and there is only two. You just have to know which one you are in. If you're in the second one, that means you're a lost sinner, because that happens after the millennial kingdom. Now, speaking of Moses, speaking of the eclipse, which is 12 days away, well, today on Netflix, there came out a film on Moses, 12 days away from the eclipse, where they also show you about the plagues that happened in Egypt. But watch how they show us about what happened in Egypt with the plague of darkness. Check it out. Let's see if you notice something.
will be diminished if I bow to the God of Moses. I will not do this. I will not.
There was thick darkness in all the land of Egypt. They did not see one another, nor did anyone rise from his place for 3 days.
Covering up the sun god Ra is the chief of the pantheon and the patron god of Pharaoh. So it's getting really serious right now.
I think the darkness is an assault on Ra because the Egyptians saw the sun as an integral part of the cosmic order. Egyptians did not understand exactly what happened to the sun at night. So it was very scary for them because the dark for them represented a lot of the unknown. And it related also to their trip to the underworld. So I think the dark also represented the death of them as individuals.
Genesis 1 creation story is all about God creating order out of chaos. In the plagues, the order is brought back to disorder, back to a pre-creation state. It's a cosmic show happening. The gods are against each other. Who's going to win this battle?
You like that little order out of chaos mention right there? He must be a Scottish Rite Freemason. Otherwise, as you can see, they showed the total solar eclipse there in Egypt for the plague of darkness with Moses. Now, the scripture does not tell us that there was a total solar eclipse. There was darkness, though, and it was miraculous. That's all I know from reading the scriptures. But notice the eclipse is shown. And what is happening in America coming up in 12 days? This film was released 12 days. Think about the 12 tribes. This was released 12 days before the eclipse coming up. And notice, it's going to make a big fat X over America in consideration of the last total solar eclipse in 2017, which goes over an area called Carbondale, Illinois, that they also refer to as Little Egypt. Man, these people, they're so cute. They're so cute with their little rituals. But I also want to remind you, they're doing it by the numbers. Between the last two total solar eclipses here in America is when they also distributed the jab. In the smack dab middle of both of the eclipses. If you think that's a coincidence, go back to sleep. And also another reference to Lucifer with 360 there, because the duration of days between the last two total solar eclipses is 2,423, which is the 360th prime number, and Lucifer equals 360. So we'll find out what the devil has coming up. Otherwise, let's take a look. Even NASA is warning us here yet again about the eclipse. These people, man, they're playing with us. And remember, the Lord does not give us the spirit of fear. Listen, if you watch the Watchmen Report, we know who the beast is, man. We know it starts the end of the world, and we know what's about to pop off when it does. Otherwise, I want to show you, they recently had a news conference on the eclipse coming up, but notice what we see here with this symbolism, all right? They show us the eclipse and what looks to be an eyebrow with a crescent moon and what looks to be the left eye, because left eye equals 666 with gematria. And eclipse looks like as above, so below, man. These people, man, they're so cute. But either way, let's listen to them warn us about the upcoming eclipse. And notice, the news anchor is wearing purple and scarlet for Mystery Babylon the Great that worships the sun god coming up. Check it out.
NASA has a warning for people who want to get a closer look at next month's total solar eclipse.
Make sure you have the proper eye protection, like the eclipse glasses. And as you look at the heavens on April the 8th, when the eclipse starts, please, please put those glasses on.
This could end up being one of the most watched solar eclipses ever, with more than 31 million people living in its path. That path covers 15 states from Texas to Maine.
Oh, you better put on those glasses, or like the Department of Homeland Security is training for, you might have seizures, or you might start having animalistic behavior. That is what DHS is training for right now. All right, seizures and animalistic behavior. Just don't be deceived, because don't forget about what has happened with 70% of the world that got deceived to receive.
This, that pink venom, get 'em, get 'em, get 'em. Straight till you don't like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
That thing went straight to their dome, and with the flip of a 5G switch might get activated. Now, speaking of NASA, notice on the day of the total solar eclipse, they're going to be putting up something in the air that's going to measure the ionosphere. But notice, it's called the, I'm not even going to try to pronounce this, man. Notice, the acronym for this particular device is called APEP. APEP. Now, I just did a Google search, yo. I just did a Google search, and notice, APEP is an ancient Egyptian, speaking of Egypt with Moses, Apep is an ancient Egyptian deity who embodied darkness and disorder and was thus the opponent of light and Ma'at, order and truth. Listen, man. Oh, man. These people. Listen, what do you expect from NASA? Don't forget, I want to remind you, NASA loves the dragon. They love the dragon, that's the devil. And NASA in Hebrew, don't forget, it means to beguile or deceive. That's what the word NASA means in Hebrew. But also notice that the full name, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, with the practice of gematria, equals the number of the beast. Notice, the actual logo looks like a forked tongue from that old serpent. And notice what they say, T minus 10, 9, 8. Well, if you take away the T in NASA, you have an anagram for Satan. So don't be deceived, man. Otherwise, here on the Watchman Report, we're watching, all right. We know the mystery of iniquity is on Operation Warp Speed to the end of the world coming up when MBS confirms the covenant with Israel. But these are a lot of different cards that are at play right now as we continue to watch.